Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight. This is our episode of Tales of Escuria, episode 14, I think it is. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are just catching the stream for the first time, we are in association with and presented by Horsham Gamers. We are a local group to the Horsham area and kind of surrounding West Sussex. If you are interested in anything to do with gaming, through from tabletop and roleplay stuff like this, through to wargaming, esports, pretty much anything you can think of, it's to do with gaming or nerd culture, we are interested in it too, and we would like to meet you. So if you'd like to come along and see us at our next board game event, which is next Tuesday in Broadbridge Heath at St John's Hall. It's free to come along, and there's free tea and coffee, and you can play some board games and have a chat. And otherwise, have a look at for us on our Discord at Horsham Gamers and Facebook group at Horsham Gamers. That's all out of the way. Let's get on with tonight's episode of Tales of Escuria. So we left off the end of last episode. You said some tearful and some not quite so tearful goodbyes to some loved members of the party. Vixen couldn't resist getting in one last gimbal smack as he left. But now the morning after the grand party is upon you. You are standing outside the Sultan's Sake, and the whole day is ahead of you. So, what would you guys like to do?
We should pick up the robot to see what's happening with it.
So at this point, Amanora looks around, so she sees these new people that she doesn't know. And she's like, I guess I will have to stay here for a little longer because Idris told me about some things that she discussed with Dolara. So if I may suggest, since she traveled with her, maybe know more about the situation, what would you think about sit down at a table and talk? Ask the questions they have to be asked, discuss where the journey goes on, and
sure,
have a conversation about everything that happened.
Of course.
Okay. If that's what you guys like to do, first of all, then there's plenty of empty seats. The Sultan's Sake is pretty much empty, and several of the tables have been just kind of either pushed to the side to make room for dancing, or are now just like toppled onto their sides. It's pretty easy for you to find an empty chair. When you walk inside, the barman Koshka has just woken up. You can see that his very, very fancy costume is very badly stained with various different alcohols and maybe other fluids that he doesn't want to talk about. And he is just in the middle of kind of like leaning on the bar and breathing very heavily, trying not to throw up. And he just looks up and just says, "Oh, it was... thank you for a very good performance."
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yes.
They won't forget about it in a long time.
No. Well, those that can remember any of it are going to remember it for a very long time.
Yeah.
Can I get you anything?
Some breakfast or something.
You have coffee?
Yes. I can go and find some. Give me a moment. And he goes through, rummaging through like a few different cupboards, and he eventually finds some small coffee beans and a coffee grinder, and he puts the beans into the grinder, and you hear the sound of it grinding around, and you see him like wincing. He's like, "Oh no, that's too loud."
Poor little thing.
But he makes up some coffee for you, and brings it over to you as you guys are kind of sitting at the table, and just like, "On the house. Thank you very much."
Oh, good. Thank you.
My pleasure. And then he heads back to the bar and just kind of sits on a bar stool for a while, just kind of like staring into space.
So, I know we don't know each other, but Idris told me some things yesterday night, and I think we have a lot of talk about, and I may be able to help you with some things.
Okay.
So first of all, this egg. Are there more of these? She said you got these eggs from the Wild Mother.
Yes. Me. I have one. I actually have it too.
Can I look at it? Could you hand it over?
Yeah,
And
I'll
she
just
puts
take
her
it
egg.
from my bag and hand it over to you.
I put it also in my front. Any other eggs?
I have one.
Would you also hand it over?
Not yet.
I need 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes, and I will be able to tell more about it.
But why? Will you be able to tell more?
Oh, it's so cute. I think I can see some language on it. I would like to read it.
Okay. I thought you had some kind of magical powers.
Maybe. You will see.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
I'm not sure I trust you enough to give you my egg yet.
It doesn't matter. I can, if you don't wish to, I won't force you. It was a
If she
question.
does something to the egg, I am strong enough to beat her, punch her.
Maybe she's stronger than you and you don't know.
So when I have the 2 eggs, I take my book out, and you can see a really fancy book. It's really thick, and it looks quite fancy and heavy, and it's a really strong blue color and has some really fancy silver ornaments around it. I will draw it one day if I have time. She puts it on a table, opens it, and she starts to mumble some words and moving her arms like in circles around the eggs. And you can see like blue light glowing up and like forming some shapes. And she does that exactly like 10, 11 minutes long, and I use comprehend languages as a ritual.
Okay.
Click it.
Yep. Okay. So at the end of the 10-11 minutes, you look at the sigils that are on these eggs, and something very odd starts to happen. As soon as you've kind of got to the point where you're thinking, okay, I'm just kind of like the cogs are ticking in my mind for me to be able to understand this language. Just as you get to like the brief moment when you would be able to understand it, the letters shift and change to a different language again.
Oh,
Very interesting. Very interesting. Not even I am able to read this language. He looks kind of confused. I think the Wild Mother doesn't want us to be able to read this language. The moment where I would understand this language, it shapeshifts in another one.
But I thought that the Wild Mother has some kind of relationship with your beloved Dolara.
I could ask her to help me, but I think we don't want to challenge the Wild Mother. If she doesn't want us to read this X, then she doesn't want us to read this X.
I agree.
I get
Do you think
the egg back.
Do you think it might be some sort of spell into the X?
I can't. Can I tell if it's? Let me see. Can I tell if there's some magic put on this, like something that prevents me actually magically, or is it more like a godlike power?
Do you have the identify spell?
No.
I think that Vixen has it.
In which case, Vixen would be able to do so with identify. You can make an Arcana check to give your kind of best guess.
Arcana check.
Yep.
Oh, Arcana, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll lend you a hand.
Vixen is not really happy.
Okay. While you're in the
19.
process of doing the ritual to cast identify, best you can tell, this is a very complex transmutation spell.
I tell her that.
Yeah.
Maybe it helps her to identify it.
Mhm.
Really interesting. Really interesting.
Vixen, when you cast Identify, it's not so much that you can't tell what the spell is on this egg, or these eggs. It's that all of them seem to be giving off, like, pretty much all of the schools of magic at once. There is simultaneously abjuration magic and conjuration magic, and very complex transmutation spell, even little tinges of necromantic energy in one of the eggs.
Mhm.
Can we know which one?
Obviously.
Mine.
Well, the necromantic one is very much in Vixen's egg, yes.
Oh.
Yes!
Really interesting.
But that lady told us, like, Vixen's one was worm and mine was cool.
Yeah, but
I was going to take Idris along to see her and see if she could test her egg, but obviously she's not here, so that would fall to you.
I will definitely do that.
I'll take you later.
All right, so that's another point on our list, I guess.
It's at that point that I guess both Vixen and Alessia make a history check with advantage, a self-history check.
Oh, that's hard. It was a good night, so.
I barely drank anything.
Okay.
oh,
Alessia, any attempt to remember yesterday, it just is met in your brain with just like a, oh no, that's a lot of alcohol, never mind. Vixen, when you're talking about Roku, you suddenly remember that you had offered to help her in the morning.
Oh yeah! Actually, you could do that with me. You look strong enough to lift some boxes.
And I don't remember that I told him to help him too, not help her too.
You want me to lift boxes?
Yeah, you can both come. We'll both lift boxes. She wants us to help with some boxes.
I can come, but I won't lift any boxes.
I
Sorry.
may not be able to lift boxes, but I can try my best.
I don't think they'll be that heavy, but she's very frail.
I will do my best.
I won't lift boxes, sorry, but I will come. I can
I
cheer
will
you
help.
up.
So before we move on, I think it would be important just to fixate everything. So we have this lady who can help us with the axe. Then Idris told me about something dark in the city that I should take care of.
Which city?
The one
here in Yokai. And
I have
also,
a feeling she may know. I may know what she was talking about. Can we talk about this later?
Okay, you say you want to go there first. We can do that.
I think me and you need to have this conversation in private.
Oh, that's no problem. I use my message. She just brushes it off like, yeah. We can do that now.
Yeah. Vixen, you hear in your head, we can do that now.
Okay, this is weird. So, what did you hear from Idris?
She just told me that she talked to Dolara, and Dolara told her that something dark darkens the city, and she should maybe investigate what it is. Any idea?
There's a chap who is spouting. He's claiming to be something he's not, but I don't know if this is related.
Interesting.
I'd love to divulge more, but I'm just not sure if I can trust you 100% yet.
That's fine for me. We can work on that. All right, that's enough to know. anything else? And you get the feeling that she really likes to just make a list, go out, do a plan.
All I'm gonna say is if the two issues are the same thing, leave it to me.
All right. If you need help, you can ask me.
Okay, then I will do that.
How long does this conversation last? Like real time, or it's like?
Yeah, it's real time. You've got like a 5-10 minute conversation at most.
Okay, so we are like looking at them like, hey.
I was in the message back and forth thing that they just had.
Yes.
Oh, that took like maybe a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so we didn't realize what's happening.
Yeah, but from your perspective, she brushed it off, and then they were just silent, looking at each other for a minute, and then you're now.
So, anything else? Any other issues that anyone else has in the city that may be interesting to?
We have the robot.
Yeah, we found the robot.
But
in our way,
a robot.
Yeah, a huge robot, and we leave it in a
workshop.
A workshop, so they might be able to tell us something about.
It's in good hands. We're gonna hear something when they know what's up with it.
I could maybe help them. Good. I think then we should make our way to help the lady.
Let's carry some boxes.
Yeah.
From behind the bar, you just hear very, very like quiet, "Yay" from Hawk.
Hawk, come help us carry boxes.
Do I have to?
You want to help a dear little lady, right? Come on.
Do I though?
I have a question about.
She's sweet and frail. You don't want to help someone in need.
If they have me back, maybe. What was your question?
Can I see that he is part of the Ascendancy, or can I see does she have a knowledge about, based on clothes and accessories and stuff like that, what people, like which part of the world they belong to?
Make an insight check. Nope.
+5. It's a 1. It's a net 1.
Yep. It's not so much that normally you feel like you would be able to get a decent read on someone, but like you're looking at Hawk and there's so much going on here. You just can't really pick out any one thing. You're wearing like a shirt that's from House Tithos, and like half of your trousers are from one island and the other half from another, and you're wearing like 5 necklaces that have like 7 different gods on them. I'm so confused.
I look confused. Interesting. All right. What would motivate you? Anything?
I mean, I'm always good for trade. If she can offer me anything in trade, then I'm more than happy to help.
I have something for you. I have something for you. She picks out a needle off her back. This needle, it can't be bended. Are you interested? You get it for free if you help.
You see him kind of like... he like climbs up over the bar, like clambers over it, and like runs up and like puts his eye like right next to his knee, and he's just like... Interesting. Do you promise to give it to me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You should test if you can bend it first, Hawk.
This is a good thing. May I?
Of course.
Okay. You see him like try and bend it, like he's like... Are you giving him the genuine needle that can't be bent, or...?
I gave him a needle that can't be bent, yeah. It's my trinket.
Yep. He's just like... Oh... These...
I don't have any use to it, but if you help the lady, I'm happy to give it to you.
he reaches out kind of like with a hand. He's just like, let's check on it.
There we go. All right, then we can get there. I don't want to be rude to her. Not that the tiny guy goes in there and just asks her for something. So this matters.
You like, he seems like really happy with himself. Like, he's perked up a hell of a lot. He's just like looking at Disney, just being like, oh. And then like you see him like pull out some like loose thread from his bag, and he starts like sewing part of his shirt back together with it, and he's just like, oh, this is very good. This is very, very good.
I'm happy.
Well, let's get there now, and we can get her deliveries to her on time.
Okay, onward. So you guys head through the remainder of the city and into the Songbird Fields. Into the South Pools, to Roku's Remedies.
Can we have the map?
Yep. Give me a second. There we go.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah, it's a pretty short walk over to South Pools, maybe about 10 minutes. You can see that there are various people that you recognise from the pub last night. You notice now. In fact, everyone make a perception check for me, please.
I can see through walls, basically.
Yeah, you know everything. For a brief moment, Emanora is aware that she is a character in a game called Dungeons and Dragons, and she has an existential crisis, and then the moment passes.
She's like, what?
But yeah. So all of you except Elland. Elland probably being too hungover. All of you notice now that you're kind of walking through this village, that a very large amount, like more than half of the people you see around here, are halflings or gnomes. They're all. It seems to be a fairly large portion of the community. You see a kind of a small smattering of drow and humans and elves, but mainly it seems to be halflings and gnomes. And you see quite a lot of very drowsy-looking halflings kind of stumbling down the road with various wares. And when you get to the South Pools itself, you can see that quite a lot of the people who are supposed to be fishing in the pools are basically just sitting asleep on chairs with fishing rods in their hands.
Is that weird? Does she think that something is a bit off?
Make an insight check. As best you can tell, they are just very, very tired and were up most of the night and now have fallen asleep because they're sitting still in a comfy chair.
Okay.
It was a big night yesterday.
Eventually, you guys get to the familiar to two of you, two conjoined huts that make up the storefront for Roku's Remedies. As opposed to when you came last time, the door is in fact at the moment closed. You can see that there is a little bit of candlelight coming from within, but the door itself is closed.
It might be a good night for Roku.
I'm hoping so too. I knocked on the door.
Okay. Make a strength check. Okay. That's a save, but no, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So yeah. You first of all, you kind of like knock at a normal volume, and there's no real kind of stirring within. And then the second time you knock at a louder volume, and suddenly you hear the sound of a few different kind of pots and cauldrons getting kind of scattered around the room, and you hear someone going, I'll be there in a minute. And then eventually the door is opened up just a sliver, and you can see Roku kind of like leaning around the door, just like, "Oh, you're here already."
Well, you needed us to do a delivery. I thought early morning would probably be the best time. Have we come at a bad?
Not a bad time. Make a perception check. Just through the little sliver that you can see in the door, you can see some slight movement of what looks like dwarvish legs pulling on trousers.
Roku, it seems like you had a good time last night.
Yeah, it was a weird night. Thank you, by the way.
It's no problem. I'm pleased for you. Go get yourself decent and then call us in a sec.
Yeah. Just, and then she like closes the door like so, just like, yeah, just and you hear some more kind of rummaging around, and you hear some kind of hushed voices. There's the sound of some hearty laughter, and then like a little kind of polite giggle. And she comes back to the door, now kind of like in her normal kind of loose-fitting robes. She seems to have tamed the bedhead that she had before, and just as she's about to leave, she just goes, "Oh, I almost forgot. Stupid." And then she goes back inside, and she goes and fetches her amulet of Lolth, and then puts it on her around her neck, and is just like, "Right, shall we get moving? I've already got the cart pretty much packed up."
I see you're wearing your amulet today.
Well, after yesterday, you made it very abundantly clear to me that I needed to be more careful about this kind of thing. I think it would do me a good thing to at least put on a show for a little while. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and it's better than nothing. Let's go get your stuff.
I would like to use. Does Eminora get that something is going on between that Vixen knows a little bit more about her because this was a weird conversation?
Make an insight check with advantage. Yeah, like you're pretty clearly just being like, okay, there's like maybe like a couple levels of subtext here that I do not have right now. This is an odd conversation, but you're not entirely sure how. Okay.
I message Vixen again. Vixen, I read a voice inside your head. I can't hear you.
This could get really annoying. Please don't do it too much.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I have the feeling something is going on. Can you tell me what's happening between you and
we met Roku before. She's torn in her love life between religion and love. It seems for the time being she has chosen love, and she is not shy of expressing the religion even though she doesn't believe in it. Make sense?
I may can help with this problem.
I think they're okay at the moment. She seems to have it under control.
But it seems like there is a little bit of pressure that maybe could taken away from the love life in that case, without taking away any religious.
You could try and talk to Roku yourself with that, but whether she would give you any more information than she gave me, I don't know.
I think we can talk to her together. She seems to trust you.
Yeah, but I think, because she knows I'm not going to snoop around too much more. She's had that nudge. She's had a bit of fun with the man she loves. And she's, going about her daily business. I see no reason to keep getting involved.
I see that differently.
You're free to talk to her.
I see. That's fine.
Okay. Out of my head now.
Bye.
I'm just gonna chime in here. Like, technically, the rules of message mean that it's limited to, you can say 20 words, I believe it is, and you have to send one message and then you can send one back. It's not meant to be a telepathic back and forth. Like, I've allowed it so far, but I don't want this to become a thing.
I could recast it.
You could recast it every single time you want to send a message back and forth.
Yeah.
You
Can I block her doing it? Can I block her from messaging me?
Nope.
No, you told her that you don't like it.
Yeah.
But can you choose not to answer?
You can choose not to answer.
I might do that.
While this is happening, where is Roku?
She is started kind of like leading you around the side of the hut, and you can see that she's got a wooden cart. It's got a few different kind of boxes and sacks that have been loaded onto it, and there are a couple of crates down kind of by the side of it. And she starts bending down to pick one of them up.
While this was happening, I just wanted. Can we just go inside with? I mean, like, hey Alessia, let's go inside. I want to see what she has.
You want to go inside the shop?
Yeah.
Okay. Make a stealth check.
Okay. I mean, I feel that's like being weird, staring between Emanora and Vixen. I don't know. So maybe something's happening.
So as you're kind of like heading towards the door, like you go to like open it, and Roko is just like, could you not, please?
Don't be rude.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to see what do you have.
Well, I'm more than happy to go through my inventory with you later. I have plenty of things which are available. I have a few things which I could even maybe sell you from the cart once we've done the rounds.
Okay.
But not quite this second.
All right, hey Commander.
Amanora wants to greet Roku since they never met, so she walks up to her and tells her name, like, as noble she is in a noble way, the most noble way you can expect her to communicate this.
You can see that Roku picks up on the kind of like the noble affectation that you have, the kind of the formality of it, and she instinctually does like a kind of like a little curtsy and is just like, my lady.
My name is Amanora. What is your name?
My name is Roku.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to have you grace my little shop, Your Highness. You can see she's like, I don't know what to say. I'm confused.
Just tell me how to help you. Where to put the boxes?
On the cart.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just call me Em or Emanora, as you wish.
Yes, Lady Emanora.
And she picks the boxes to help her.
Yeah, we start picking the boxes too.
Okay.
And I push Ellen like, do something, mate.
I don't want to do anything.
You can see a really sharp view
Do you
from Emanora.
Do you push him so hard he falls over?
I was going to say, make a strength check and make an intimidation check.
I have to do both.
Yes.
Yep.
Trip him over.
He just falls in the mud.
catapult him to the next.
Oh yeah.
Wait, intimidation.
Intimidation. Yeah. 19. Okay. So what you think is going to be like a light shove? You're used to like other Goliaths, so you're just like light shove, get on with it. What actually happens is you kind of send him off his feet and then like into the wall of the shop, and he's just like. And for a brief moment, you're like, "Is this how I die? Is this how my life ends?"
Like, I just changed. I want to be better.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you that hard.
Well, if that's the answer to being lazy, I guess I should better start working.
Good boy.
Oh, I like having you around.
Okay.
That was really necessary.
So between all of you, you managed to pretty quickly get some things on the cart. You can see that Hawk, as you're loading things onto the cart, is just kind of like every time he like gets a box or a sack that's slightly open, he like takes a peek and is just like, he does, pops it on the cart. He spends like more time looking at what's in the bags than actually helping.
Hawk, quit being nosy.
An inquisitive mind is a sign of a sharp and intelligent man, as my mother always told me.
Work on your strength, not your brain.
That's also necessary.
Okay. And then like you see him like try and pick up like a really heavy sack, and he's just like. And he, like,
you keep going, you may be
waddles
able
over.
to
Can I pick the sack and when I pull it over, I take the sack and him?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you just pick up and he's just like hanging onto it, like, excuse me, no. And you put it on the cart, and he just kind of like falls off onto the ground, and he's just like, think of the needle, Hawk. Think of the needle. Okay, right, let's go.
Roku, how many boxes are left?
Just this one. She comes round from like the back of the shop, and she's carrying a fairly smallish box. Doesn't seem to be particularly heavy. She just says, "I'm going to hold this one for the journey."
Okay, that's fine. When we get back, would you mind looking at Emma Nora's egg? She has one.
Oh, another one. Yes,
another
of course.
one.
I'd be more than happy to. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
Right. And you can see she like walks to the front of the cart and like picks it up and starts kind of like slowly moving it forward, and is just like, okay, let's go.
Alessia, could you help her?
Oh, I didn't understood that. She's carrying the car.
Yeah.
Well, I just help her, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I can do it.
When you grab it, it starts moving immediately, about 3 times as fast as it was before, and she's just like, thank you.
So Roku, how's Thorvald?
I'm sure he's fine.
Good girl.
I hear he had a good evening, and will be hard at work this morning in the shop, as expected.
I think he deserves a little break.
He
We
does
will
work
pass
too
to say
hard.
hello this afternoon.
You're going to see him after this?
Well, we were going to make sure he was getting on okay with our robot.
And I would love to see that robot.
Oh, the robot is yours.
Yeah, we had him on a job, but it's all right.
He's a fast worker. I'm sure he will be right on it. Let's go this way. And she like immediately like, you can tell that it's not supposed to be a detour. You're heading in the right direction already, but she's like, I'm going to change the subject now. So about about 15 minutes or so, with Alessia moving the large cart, you're able to make your way up through the north of the city and into the songbird fields. Whereas down near the Sultan Sake, the fields seem to be mostly kind of rice paddies. Up here you can see large fields of wheat and corn, and the same staffs that you'd seen on the way into town, emitting a kind of false sunlight to provide them with food. You can see that there are a few people who are in the process of moving around this area and collecting the wheat. You can see that it seems to be more humans and elves in this area due to how tall the plants are. And eventually you go along a series of kind of mud tracks through these fields until eventually you come to essentially a little clearing in the middle of some corn, with 3 huts and a small pool of water. They also have, between them, it seems like an area has been cleared to allow for some communal kind of cooking and recreational space. So you can see that there are a couple of fire pits that have been put in, and you can see that there's a pot which is bubbling away above one of the fire pits at the moment, with an elderly looking woman stirring the pot. And you can see what looks like a couple of halfling children kind of ducking in and out of the corn, chasing each other. When you finally get to this spot, Roku just says, "If we just drop the cart here, I've got to make a quick delivery, bit of a house call, check in on these folks. Won't be a minute."
Okay.
So she heads to the door of one of these huts and knocks on it. And after about 10 seconds, what looks to be a fairly elderly woman, a halfling, kind of steps out and gives her like a hug around the knees and is just like, "Roku, oh, it's good to see you. It's wonderful to see you. Have you brought me any presents this time?" And Roku seems to be a bit distressed. She looks down at this woman and is just like, yeah, yes, give me a moment. And then she reaches into her pocket and gets out what looks like a kind of like a candied orange peel or something similar like that, and hands it over to this woman. And the woman kind of like grabs it and it's just like, Thank you very much, and then just runs off into the fields. And then she turns around and kind of like looks over to all of you and is looking concerned.
I head straight to her.
Can I make an insight check? Can she figure out what happened just there?
Make an insight check, yeah.
Based on her knowledge.
Did we realize that?
Did you realise what? Sorry.
That she's looking towards us like with a weird look in the eye.
All of you can see that, yeah.
Okay.
Can I get some more?
What's the matter?
So with that insight check, you can see that for the first kind of few seconds of that conversation, it looks like Roku did not recognize this person. And then seemed to be kind of taken aback. There was kind of a half recognition, and then she was just trying to kind of like get the conversation over with. She looks to you, Vixen, and is just like, can we go back to the cart just a second?
Sure.
She gets.
Do we all go with her?
So you guys are back at the cart again, and in kind of like a hushed voice, she's like, "Something very wrong is here. Something bad has happened."
I look at my raven.
Mm-hmm.
I say, Aura, go and fly around. Look around if you can see something interesting. And I send him off.
Okay. your raven gives like a short like caw, and then like up into the air and starts to scout around the area, just kind of like going over the fields. Roku just says, I know that girl. Her name is Julie. She has been coming into my shop for 2 or 3 years, every so often, for sweets or similar. She is 12 years old. That is not
What?
a 12-year-old.
That's not what I saw, yeah.
Wow.
When was the last time you saw her?
Probably a week ago. And she was
She
normal
was
then.
12 ago. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what is happening, but something is very wrong.
Can I
Maybe.
figure out what? Is it magic? Can I think of any magic or anything that comes to my mind?
Make an Arcana
That's
check.
how. Did I come along anything?
You've heard of a few different things that can do this. There are spells that can be cast to prematurely age someone. There are spells which, if you do wrong, can cause this effect. And there are various different creatures which can have effects that, if they attack, might cause someone to be prematurely aged. But there are a lot of possibilities.
Let's see, I
Oh,
think.
I'm really tired of. Since Idris left, you have all a bunch of foreign people. Let's make this like friendly, and I just turn around and go to the door or whatever it was and try to talk to her.
Roku starts kind of trailing after you and is just like, I'm not sure that's the safest or most sensible idea.
I got this, and I say, "Come on, Roku. Did you see last night what I can do? I'm a friendly guy. I try to be a friendly guy. I try to be a better person, actually. So yeah, we can just talk with her and see what happens. Better than guessing things."
Okay, make a persuasion check for advantage.
The cat is just trying to throw our laptop from the table.
It's
But
like fighting with the laptop. Sorry.
Okay, 13.
oh,
You see, she looks uneasy, and she just says, I don't know what's going on here, but if you think you can get some more information, then sure, I guess.
okay.
I don't think that's a polite idea.
I don't know. Elland could play a song for the children. Maybe he can ask them in song.
Yeah, I can try. I'm not the best performer, but yeah, I can try. I like the idea.
If it's not too, yeah, just be careful.
Yeah, don't worry. Have you given you any reason to
You worried?
don't trust me?
No, I just have some. I have a weird feeling about this whole situation.
Okay, I think I'll be careful.
Can I go and inspect the corn?
Sure. While you are
When she
doing
goes-
that, make an investigation check or a nature check, either one. And Elland, if you're trying to play a song for the kids, make a performance check. Okay, nature check. As far as you can tell, this corn seems to be healthy. If anything, it seems to be more healthy than you've seen in other places, owing to the sunlight staffs. You've usually seen pretty kind of like weak, anemic corn. This looks like actual decent corn.
Roku, come check out this corn.
Okay. She's gonna head over. Give me a second. Meanwhile, Elland, you take a seat. There's like a tree stump which is near the fire pits.
Mhm.
And what instrument are you playing to attract the kiddies? That sounds weird.
Sounded really weird.
One do I have? Yeah, the loot is nice. Yeah, I get the loot. I start playing.
Okay. After a little while, a couple of the halfling kids that have been chasing each other around the fields come and kind of like sit cross-legged near the fire, and like looking up and like watching you play. There seems to be a halfling boy and a halfling girl. The halfling girl doesn't seem to be particularly interested, but the halfling boy seems to be kind of like sitting there and like nodding his head along. Roku goes over and has a look at the corn and kind of like runs her hand through it and is just like, am I supposed to be seeing something? 'Cause I'm not.
Well, I just figured maybe you could tell that this corn looked really healthy, like probably healthier than any of the other cornfields we've seen.
This is normal for yokai. It's been this way for, well, long before I was here.
Okay. Are there any plants that could do this to them?
Certainly there are plants which you could distill into a potion that might have this effect, but that would be a temporary thing. I don't see why anyone would target the girl specifically.
Vixen,
Mm-hmm.
I have some knowledge about stuff like this. I studied long enough, and I think it could be maybe a spell that went wrong, or maybe a creature that attacked her. If we could inspect her and see if we can see any marks or anything on her, we could maybe figure out more. But
Roku, do you recognize anyone else like in the same situation, or this only this girl?
So far, it only looks like the girl, but this is why I was a bit hesitant to go inside the hut. If it happened to her, it might have happened to her parents. They were pretty old already.
I call Aura
Oh no!
down.
I run.
Don't go in there. Don't go in there.
But maybe we need to go to see what happened.
I will send Aura. Don't go in there. I send Aura the Raven in.
Okay.
I can look through his eyes.
Oh, he's your familiar. Okay.
He's my familiar.
Cool. Yeah. So from all of your guys' perspective, you've seen Kada do this once or twice. Basically, Emanora, her eyes kind of just like blank over, just go like a very faint kind of blue color, just kind of like. And then the Raven kind of like swoops down onto one of the windowsills, hops along a little bit, and then like sweeps down and goes inside the house. Inside, the Raven is able to see there do appear to be 2 people in there. They seem to still be alive, but they look to be extremely old for a halfling.
Okay, I said it out loud. What I see.
Mm-hmm.
I tell Roku this, and I'm also going to ask, did she know the family?
I do know them. They're good people.
Is there any way we can help?
I think we need to figure out what did it to them.
Well, Roku, you're the best person to ask them if you know them more than we do.
Yes, I entirely agree. As much as I personally appreciate all of your help, and I think they will too, I feel like I'm in probably the best position to talk to them. I think the last thing they need right now is strangers in their home asking questions.
I want to listen with Aura.
Yep, easy enough to do.
We'll wait outside.
So Roku heads inside, and there's about 4 or 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Elland, you now seem to have gathered about 5 or 6 children, including Julie, who looks to be about 60.
Okay.
And they're all kind of sat there.
I just started playing like a really silly song. That goes like an elephant is swinging on a spider web. An elephant is swinging on a spider web, and then they have to repeat like, oh, okay.
You can see like a few of them are like joining in, especially like the one boy who'd like taken interest at the beginning. He seems to have like scooted right up, so he's like basically right in front of you, just like he's like singing along really loudly and clapping. And you see that Julie is kind of like sat at the back. She's kind of sat a little bit further back from all the rest of them, but she seems to be like singing along as well.
Yeah, and I every time I try to make more emphasis on this spider web, like giving like a dramatic turn to the spider web.
Okay.
I don't know how to.
I think I know what you're going for. Make a. Oh, what would this be? I guess a persuasion check with advantage. Okay. So you can see that you're definitely kind of like getting across and we're just kind of like you're trying to question them if it was something to do with spiders, anything to do with the amulets, anything to do with any of these. And whilst they seem to be kind of joining in, like none of them seem to be responding to that in anything other than what you'd normally expect.
Okay, so and I keep playing like, and what will happen if the spider web breaks down? And I just stop. And I want just to suddenly change like the feeling, because this was something every time more dramatic. So I will ask them, hey kids, do you know any song that I can play? What do you want me to play so you can sing with me?
You see one of them kind of like shoves his hand up in the air. It's just like the one that's directly in front of you is just like, oh, me, pick me. He's just like, I want to sing the story of Slip Tripplesworthy.
Okay. Can you sing that a little bit? Like, well, yeah, 2 sentences, so I can pick their music.
He's just like, and he slipped and tripped and fell on his head and slipped the trip, he ended up dead. Slipped the trip and fell on his head. And it's just kind of like going round and round, basically the same 2 lines over and over again.
Okay.
Hella creepy.
I start singing the same thing, but like clapping, really, really quiet, and then when the people like starts going on, every time like louder.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to see what Julie is doing. How is she feeling?
You see that as like when they are singing this song, like she seems to still be kind of clapping along, but she doesn't seem to be as kind of into it at this point. She's just kind of like, okay. She seems to be looking a bit uncomfortable. Make an insight check. Yeah, you've got these kids on a rope. I'll say advantage is fine for that one. So you notice that she seems to be extremely uncomfortable, specifically about the word dead.
Okay. Yeah, I just keep the thing going, and I just give my look to the kids. Hey kids, you want to try that? And just to keep them entertained.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I just try to sneak around and get Julie.
Okay. Yeah, the kid in front of you like grabs it, and he immediately like stands up and does like School of Rock like power stances, like ding. And he's having like the time of his life, and there's like a few of the kids like crowding around, like poking the instrument, and all that kind of stuff. Julie seems to kind of get up from kind of like her sat position, like slowly she gets to her knees and then up to her feet, and she seems to wander off kind of away towards the edge of the cornfield again.
Okay, finally, we're alone. I don't want to bother you.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I know, but and steal more of your time. But yeah, those people, and I point at you.
You're talking to a little girl.
I know that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I don't know how to deal with little girls anyway. I mean,
Like, how are you? How are you feeling today?
no, I won't do that.
She's seeming really confused, and she's just like, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers.
I just like, how do you call it when you crouching?
When you
like you crouch down, yeah.
Yeah, to like having my eyes like same head height. Okay, I'm a weird guy. You can tell that.
Yeah.
But we want to. Well, I've made like a promise, not to anyone, but to myself. And I want to be a better person. So I'm trying to help at least one person every day, and that's difficult. And you seem to be in trouble.
Can I hear Ellen doing this terribly?
You can very clearly hear Ellen, and
I
like
I run over to the cornfield and I whisk her away.
Julie is just kind of like looking at you, just like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go. I've gotta go. Make lunch. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning.
And when she's like going, hey, remember that we can help you.
No, thank
And
you.
I just look at Vixen like, what? What are you doing?
Like she goes with you, Vixen, because she's just like, oh, it's like another. It's like another adult that's not being creepy, that's getting me away from the creepy person. Okay, that's good.
It's like, come on, Vixen, let me do my thing. I saw that the Manora just keeps a list of everything, and I thought that it's interesting that I can keep a list of everyone I helped along the way. We don't have many people now. But
Do you have a list for everyone you've terrified?
That's
When you say like,
probably a bigger list.
let me do my thing, like you can see her like reach down to her side, and she gets out like a tiny dagger, and she's just like, stay back.
Okay, yeah.
I put a hand on her shoulder.
I can take Ellen away and tell the kid, "Don't worry, kid. I take care of him." And I just take care of him, away him from the little girl.
I'm just imagining like you basically just like pick him up with one hand and like move him away.
So I put a hand on her shoulder and I tell her, it's okay. I wouldn't worry about him. Honestly, I think he might be a bit broken in the head. We're not sure ourselves.
Okay.
He means you no harm, really.
Okay. Who are you?
My name's Vixen.
Oh. Okay.
I'm a friend of Roku's.
Oh. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Julie.
It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. But I'm really confused right now. Something weird is happening.
What's happened?
Will you promise not to tell Mum and Dad?
Cross my heart.
Make a persuasion check with advantage.
Oh no!
You can see that she's she's about to kind of say something. She's just like, I'm not and then that's the point when Roku comes back out through the door, and she sees Roku, and then immediately is just like, nice to meet you, and then just kind of like walks off. Meanwhile, what you heard inside the house, the conversation, some parts of it were kind of difficult to make out, but the general gist. Can you make a perception check through? There should be a section in the journal marked the folder familiars. Let me just give you access to the Raven one. Give me a second. I'll give you access to all of them between now and next session. But yeah, so you should now have access to the Raven. Can you make a perception check through your Raven, please?
What?
Okay. It was very difficult to make out what was going on inside that house. You tried to kind of get inside the house to listen, but the door was shut behind Roku when she walked in, so you had to do your best trying to kind of listen through the glass of the window. And basically all that you were able to pick up was, we told her not to follow the lights. We told her and we had to go after her.
Do I know anything about light creatures or lights that could cause this effect?
Make either a history or an arcana check.
Okay.
Yeah. Immediately,
that's what I studied for.
It all clicks in your head. You're like, oh, I know what this is. The combination of her being aged and her following the quote-unquote lights, you're pretty sure, to within like 99% sure, that she was drawn away into the fields at night by a will-o'-the-wisp. And they have the ability to steal life essence from something.
And that's not repairable, I guess.
It is semi-repairable. It's something that you can fix in a couple of ways, but it's not very easy to repair. You either need to get to it. Basically, you need to get to it within 24 hours, with a greater restoration spell, or you can repair it with a wish spell, or the only other way is you have to destroy the will-o'-the-wisp that caused it.
In 24 hours.
As long as you destroy the will-o'-the-wisp, it doesn't matter the time limit. But to heal it with a greater restoration spell or a wish spell, it has to be within 24 hours.
Okay, then I walk up to the group and tell them that I think I'm really sure that I know what happened here and how we can fix it if we want to.
Go on then, tell us.
So I'm pretty sure that there is a will-o'-the-wisp they found one in the fields, and if you could destroy it, everything should be back to normal.
But where did it come from?
Do I know something where they come from?
With that Arcana check, yeah. Will-o'-the-wisps are a form of undead. They are something which, sometimes if a soul is left with something undone, if a soul is left with business still on this material plane, but it is not strong enough to manifest itself as a full ghost. It can become a will-o'-the-wisp. And it will be trying to steal the life from someone so that it can be powerful enough to become a full ghost and do what it needed to do.
Do we know what kind
Tell
of
them.
okay? Do we know what kind of shape do they have? Like
How they look.
physically? Yeah.
So
face.
Emanora would know definitely. Yeah, they look basically like orbs of light. They can glow more or less brightly, depending on what they want to do, but they try and use this effect, especially they try and use it on children to kind of like guide them away from the path. To look like
Do I
a
know how
lantern.
to destroy them?
Yeah, you know that they are they're pretty difficult to destroy, just because they are difficult to catch. They are very fast. They are very nimble, and if they think that they are being attacked, then they are likely to attack you, and potentially cause the same effect that had happened to Julie and her parents.
If you want to solve this problem, we will have to be clever. It's not easy to destroy them. And it's really risky, I would say.
You know what they're strong and weak against?
Do I?
This is where you get to kind of like the edge of your knowledge of them, where you know that they are like most of these kind of ghostly undead. They aren't affected very much by physical weaponry. They tend to be mostly affected by spells. You can damage them with normal weapons, but it's difficult. And they are difficult to hit.
Let's say I don't have the perfect plan yet, but maybe if there's a library or any source of knowledge, I could make something up.
Maybe we can ask
Roku.
Maybe we can ask the girl where she saw the.
She said in the corns. I'm pretty sure she was in the fields. I listened in a bit. So just a tiny bit. It's better to have the information firsthand. I think we should, if we really want to do this, it's risky. We should gather more information about these beings and try to figure out anything how we don't have to get too close to them. So, any idea of a library or any knowledge source in this city, Roku, where I could have a look?
She kind of like gestures around to like the whole like town itself, and is just like, there's not a lot here really. I mean, I've got a few books, but they're mainly on herbs and potions. There are only really two places where you're going to find large numbers of books. Could try and get an audience at the Salt Lord's Rest and talk to the local lord of the city, see if he might let you have a look at his collection, though he's not a very nice man. Thorvald has a fairly decent collection of books. Tends to be mostly mechanical things, tinkering, but he might have something.
We should definitely ask both of them.
And what about the church? Does the church has any library?
No, it has the, and you see her kind of like roll her eyes a tiny bit. The holy texts, but beyond that, not much more. There used to be a library. They burned it down.
Okay.
I think it's worth just staying here until nightfall and seeing for ourselves. Roku and Horse can go back.
I know for sure that we shouldn't get close to them without a plan. They could aid you in
While I'm just saying, if we wait here, while we're waiting, we can discuss a plan between us of what we know and our skills, and see how beneficial it will be when they.
I don't like ghosts.
I don't agree with you. I like Emanora. She has demonstrated that in one day that she's smarter than all of us.
You're just bitter that you couldn't steal a child.
I didn't want to steal a child. Not like you. I know you wanted to convert her to some kind of thing.
We don't know. Like, stretches his arms and wanders over to you and it's just like, who's stealing children? What's going on?
Ellen tried to steal
I'm
a child.
confused. Oh my goodness, Ellen.
I
really had
didn't.
a good impression of you. Please don't destroy it.
Hawk is like, we have got along this far, but I tell you, if you try to do anything to any kind of children, and he like rolls up his fist and he's just like, I will have to fight you.
And Ellen, why the sudden mistrust? I've done nothing to you.
I was trying to help, and you didn't let me do my.
You were scaring a child.
I was trying to help.
I think this will not help us. This conversation won't help us now. We should try to act fast. I think if one of you could go to the guy who already has the robot and ask him if he has any books about these beings, and I will go and try to get an audience at the Lord's place and ask him for books. Maybe, I could need some company.
Maybe if the guy who knows about the robot is able to help us turning it on, maybe the robot might be helpful.
He could be really helpful indeed.
Okay, we'll go see Thorvald. Ellen can go with Emanora, seeing
sure.
I could need some prominent help. I'm pretty sure I can get the audience myself, but it will be easier if you're around.
Remember that I'm a member of the almost royalty, so.
I know that.
Did I know that she knew that?
Make an insight check.
Me? Okay.
Ellen.
You got the sense that she had like an inkling that you were probably a noble of some kind. Like there's certain things that like even though you don't really like any of the noble stuff, like there's certain stuff that just gets kind of like drummed into you when you're a kid.
And his clothes are quite obvious.
Yeah.
He wears the colours of his house.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
I need to take those. Okay.
So yeah, you feel like she probably had a decent idea. She maybe didn't know that you were like that close up to proper royalty, but like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the region. All right, then let's get an audience and ask him for the books, and you guys go there, and I will leave. Can I ask Roku? Roku, can you tell me how far away the place of the robot and the Lord are from each other? Just the general direction.
They're not too far. I mean, Thorvald's workshop is in the Three Bridges district, and the Salt Lord's Rest is in the Cascade. They're next to each other.
Is it inside of 100 feet?
No, definitely not.
Okay, then I still give Aura to Alessia. Alessia, would you take care of my familiar and take him with you?
Yeah.
He's really well trained.
Sure, I have a thing with animals.
I don't know what.
It sounds really bad, but I like animals.
Okay. I'll leave Aura with them, so if I have to do something, if I have to communicate with them, just keep an eye on him. Maybe if he pokes you or if he does some weird things.
No, actually, I have something that I can communicate with animals. Yeah.
Perfect. Then if you make something that alarms you, then you can guess that it's us.
Okay, great.
Cool. So first of all, we will, because you will be basically walking the same direction up until you get to Thorvald's place, and then you and Ellen will be heading on further. So we'll cut straight to you guys have arrived at Thorvald's. You can hear the familiar sound of kind of turning machinery, cogs. The water wheel outside seems to be moving as normal, and there's a fair amount of grey and black smoke coming out of the chimney in like pretty regular intervals.
Oh,
So when you guys head inside, you can see a fairly large number of gnomes who seem to be in the process of with various different tools. You can see most of the outer body of the Warforged that you found before. Like the armor plating has been removed and set aside, and you can see they're working on like the individual like internal bits. And Thorvald is sat on a fairly high stool, kind of above them, with 3 or 4 different books, kind of flipping back and forth between them and giving barking orders at them in mixtures of gnomish and halfling. He doesn't seem to notice you when you come in.
Thorvald!
He looks over and he's just like, oh, and then immediately like sets the books aside and hops down off this, off the high chair, and just kind of like you hear like the pattering of like of like his feet kind of coming across the floorboards, and then he hops back up to kind of the counter to be at eye height. He's just like, yes, hello. It's wonderful to see you.
Did you have a good night last night, Thorvald?
Yes, I had a very normal night of the good variety. Normal to middling night. Anyway, I assume you're here about your mechanical friend.
I am. I just wanted to express my gratitude on your good night and the fact that, you know, I'm glad that you had such a good time. I heard from Roku that she had a good time too.
You heard from Roku that... Yes. Thank you. Yes. You can see he's just like this. That you can see like the cogs turning his head. He's just like, is Roku telling everyone? Is this a thing? I don't know if it's a thing yet. This is really confusing. I'm still hungover. I'm supposed to be working on this.
How's our robot?
The robot, good. Well, not bad. Well, ish. He kind of like gestures behind and he just says, "You can see the state that we are currently in. It didn't really show from the outside. The armor plating held up very well considering the age of this machine. Remarkable. I assume there was probably some kind of enchantment, but I digress. The inside, the internals are very what's the technical term? They're fucked. I'm trying my best, but there's a significant amount of damage.
How long do you think it will take to fix?
It's difficult to tell. Some of these parts we're having to refabricate them ourselves. Some are pretty easy to get our hands on, and there are a few which, honestly, I have no idea what they're actually supposed to do to begin with. It's a considerably more difficult job than I initially thought it might be. I assure you, I will do it. I will get it fixed, and I'm doing it as fast as I can, but honestly, I can't tell.
Okay. Tammy.
Can't hear you, Tammy.
We can hear you.
Pressing my button. Okay, we'll leave it with your capable hands. I'm sure you can get around to fixing it eventually. Looks like we're going to be here for a while yet anyway. I wondered, though, do you know about will-o'-the-wisps?
Very oddly specific question. I know some small amounts about various different undead creatures. I've heard folk tales and such. I might have something around here. What? Why? Why'd you ask?
We're currently investigating one.
Here in Yokai.
Or close to.
Okay.
Thorvald, look at me. If there was one, you know I will deal with it.
Yes, quite.
I would need your information to do so.
Yes, very good. Give me a moment. And you see him wander around. He's looking at his long, extremely tall bookshelves, and he's just kind of like, and he fetches his little step ladder over, steps onto it, and presses a lever, and it just goes up to the right height. And he grabs out in amongst all of these what seems to be 10 or 15 volumes of the same kind of book, like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. In amongst one of them, he kind of like pushes it to the side a little bit, and then reaches in and pulls out a smaller book that doesn't appear to be leather bound. It seems to be bound in, well, it's still leather, but it's kind of like a rough leather, not very fancy. And he picks it off the shelf and then back down, hops up onto the table and says, "I'm not sure how much help this will be. It's a book of, well, it's children's fairy tales, but there might have some wisdom in it, I suppose. The information has to come from somewhere."
Do you know what? That's actually very helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Would you like to purchase the book, or just have a quick flick through?
It's a children's book, yes?
Yes.
I'll just flick through. I don't think I need it in my collection.
Yes, quite. Make an investigation check.
With advantage, because I have a book?
No, because it's you investigating to look through the book and flick through. You wouldn't be able to make an investigation check at all if there wasn't a book. You'd be like, I investigated
fair
the
enough.
air.
Can I give her advantage for being like just looking on the book?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if it will be helpful, but no. Dumb looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
It has some like, whoa.
You were doing okay for a little while, and then you spotted a picture of what looked like some giants, and you're just like, "Oh, cool giants." Eventually, Vixen, with you flipping through, you come to a fairy tale, which is essentially sounds kind of like what happened. There is a young girl, and she is traveling. It says in this version of the story that she is traveling through the woods alone at night, on the way back from visiting one of her friends back to her own house. It gets dark, and her lantern runs out of light. But then off in the forest, she spots another light shining, and she thinks it must be the light from her own house. So she runs off into the forest in the direction of what she assumes is the light from her own house. And when she does arrive there, she almost gets taken away by a group of these will-o'-the-wisps who start to circle around her. And at the very last second, her father manages to find her, and he fights away the wisps. It's difficult to tell how he fights away the wisps, but one thing that it does say is, though the wisps were magic, his magic was stronger.
Alicia, this kind of worries me a bit.
Why?
I don't want to kill this spirit, I would rather help it. It's stuck. It just needs some guidance to do what it needed to do.
Are you sure
Okay,
you
I
can
know
help
it's
him?
sucking life forces, but I'd rather find another way.
How can we find another way?
At this point, I don't know. Can you ask your spirit friends? They may know.
I don't know. Can I?
Yeah, sure. Give me a... Well, first of all, you'll need to rage in the middle of this
I
shop.
need to rage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we should go somewhere quiet because I don't want to rage here in the middle.
Thorvald, thanks for the book. That's really helpful. We're going to get going.
Goodbye.
Yes, very good. I'll update you if I get anywhere. See you at the Sultan's Sake, I guess.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. See you.
Okay, we head straight to the bar.
Okay. As you guys head off towards the bar, we'll cut over to approaching the Salt Lord's Rest. We see Elland and Eleonora.
Can we have like a bit of conversation?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. My attitude now is not like the extremely fake, effusive behavior that I show with the kids. It's like the same apathic element as always. And I just ask her, what do you think about this whole story?
What all happened?
Yeah, maybe. I've said that I want to help people, and that's true. But I don't want to help people at any price, or even more, I don't want to help people, I don't know, hide their problems, right? You said that the spirit had something to do here, and that sounds really weird.
What I get from the situation now is that we may be able to help, and if we're able to help without risking our lives, we should probably do that. But if we can't gather more information, or we get information that tells us that we're probably just stupidly risk our lives, we should think about it in another way. But I think helping other people, if you give a lot, you will get a lot. And even if you don't want money, you may want something else, even if it's just respect.
No, I don't want money. And I guess that sentence about if you give a lot, you receive a lot is not written anywhere. I'm just curious about what happened to the person behind the spirit.
We may figure out, maybe there's another way than just destroying it. But right now, I don't know enough to tell you about it. That's why we try to investigate it. I will go the easiest and the best way. In my opinion, violence is always the worst way, but we will see what we can gather. Sometimes we may not be able, instead of letting it steal the whole life of this village, we should probably destroy it. If we can find another way without violence, I will definitely go that way.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And another question for you, Cal.
Yep.
Do we cross any clothes shop?
When you're passing through the Three Bridges district, yeah, there's a tailor which is fairly near kind of the edge of it.
Okay, I just turn to MR and say, okay, I didn't like that you knew me. Let me just get a real quick change, yeah. And I just go inside.
Okay.
She stands outside, is just extremely confused. We were on, he goes shopping? We have time till the night comes, and it will come back, and he goes shopping.
No, don't worry. It won't take long. I'm the average size.
Okay.
Okay.
When you head inside, you can see that there are 3 gnomes who appear to be in the process of simultaneously cutting out different parts of the same garment, kind of like laid out on a table. They all seem to be wearing like very like perfectly tailored suits. There's like not a single button out of place, like very fancy like cravats and everything. Like they are dressed immaculately. And then one of them, upon hearing like the ding of the bell when you walk in through the shop door, kind of looks up and then like snaps his fingers, and the other 2 immediately kind of like just kind of nod and continue to cut the garment. And he places he takes the scissors kind of away with him, closes them, and like very daintily puts them in like a perfectly like proportioned pocket to suit the scissors, just kind of like on his shirt, just like, and walks over to you and is just like, "Good evening, sir."
Good evening. I have to say that I passed by and I just entered, and I'm really impressed by your art. You look amazing, and
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's some of our finest work. Of course, you have to always be advertising the business. Of course, so when I go out in the evenings, I have to make sure that I am dressed to my best.
okay, yeah. Can I get just a set of clothes, functional, but that doesn't look really expensive, but you know that they are expensive, and yeah, not really flashy. Could you do that for me?
You want functional, but fancy, but not fancy,
Yeah.
but expensive, but poor.
I mean, I know that you will maybe pay a good amount of money because obviously you are good tailors, but I don't want it to look like really pretentious. I don't know if you.
Good quality, but not.
I feel I know precisely what you're talking about. You want something that's a bit more, a bit down to earth, man of the people, but still
like
comfortable, refined, but not too fleshy.
I like it. The man of the people. Yeah, I could use that sentence.
Yes, very good, very good. Give me a moment. I will head into the back. He runs off into the back.
After he's going like to the backstage, no back office, whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it could be green, it's better.
Of course, sir. Of course.
I like blue more, but if you want green.
I mean, green is matching my skin.
He comes back after about 10 minutes, and he comes out with an extremely neat and folded set of clothes. You can tell from the outside of it, it's made to look like it's made from kind of slightly rougher material, not quite as rough as like as the normal peasant clothing you'd see, but something that's a bit more kind of like rugged. But on the inside, he shows you it's lined with silk to make it nice and comfortable. It is in a kind of deep forest green. And it comes with a matching like shoulder cape and hood.
Oh, I like it. How much is it?
Well, I will need to make some minor alterations. So combining the alterations fee with the cost of the clothing, and I believe that should come to around about 20 gold.
Okay, and how long will it take to have it ready?
He looks over to the other two gnomes. And in the time that you have been waiting, you have seen them like pretty much completely cut to order and start on an entirely other set of clothes. It's like, I reckon we should be able to get this done within 10 minutes if you can give us an express order. And he puts his hand out just like,
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I want to give
How much
a
extra do you
good
give
job.
him?
A good job deserves a good pay. I will give him like 7 gold extra.
Okay. So mark down 27 gold. When you hand him the extra 7 gold, he looks very pleased and he's just like, "Of course, sir. Right away. I'll get straight on it." And he turns away, and you see him like click his fingers and bark in extremely like fast-paced gnomish to these other two, and they immediately set aside the things that they were doing. And two of them like run over, and they literally like one stands on the other's shoulders to get like measurements of you, and kind of like. And yeah, 10 minutes later, you have a lovely made-to-measure green suit.
Okay, I change clothes. I just throw them my old clothes to them. Yeah, you can keep them. They could be sold by a nice amount of money, I guess.
Are you sure? These are very, very fine clothing, sir.
Yeah, don't worry. It's okay. I cannot carry many things while traveling.
I see. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, sir. I hope you have a wonderful day, and fair travels. 8 blessings be with you.
8 blessings, and I give him like 3 extra gold coins. Like, and this is for the sentence, the man of the people. You will hear that again.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, we can continue.
Yeah. When you leave the shop, before you even hear like the door closed, you can hear him be like like hopping up and down like happily with the amount of money that he's got today.
Okay, we can continue.
Okay. You guys continue along your route. As you do, you pass from the Three Bridges district into the Cascade district. As you get further up into the Cascade, you recognise why it has the name of the Cascade. There is a large waterfall, which is coming down from the cliffs up to the northwest, and it gives kind of like a pleasant background noise of the kind of the rushing water as you're walking through the Cascade district. And as you walk along this road, you walk by a very large building, much larger than any of the other buildings around it by a factor of about 4. Whereas most of the things around you are kind of fairly small huts, or in this area they seem to be maybe 2-story houses. This building seems to be around about 5 or 6 stories tall. Particularly, there is a tower at one end of it with a bell at the top of it, and that seems to be about 8 stories tall. That extends far up into the ceiling of this cavern.
Can I tell what it is?
Make a religion check.
The Bachelor worth it.
Oof. Oh yeah. You immediately, not only from the bell tower being kind of a giveaway, but from the architecture of it, you're looking at it, you're thinking, oh yeah, this is the Church of Lolf, probably from around about 2,000 years ago. This building has been here a long time, much longer than all the rest of the buildings around it.
I just say that casually walking by to Elland, like, yeah.
How do you know that many things?
I learned a lot.
How old are you?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm sorry. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
31.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Kind of
I'm
clever.
older.
Yes,
I'm
it
older
is.
than you, and a dumbass. Yeah, don't worry.
As you are kind of walking past this, you can see that there are a large number of people who are hanging around near kind of the large double doors at one of the ends of the church. You can see that there are a lot of people who seem to be kind of in the process of leaving the church, and as they do, all of them give kind of a solemn bow. And they cross their hands across their chest, kind of like this, kind of like. And then proceed out through the door. So it's taking quite a while for these people to leave, and you can hear the faint sound of what you assume is probably a church choir floating out of these doors as well. It's quite beautiful music. Eventually, you manage to make your way through this slow-moving crowd up towards the Salt Lord's Rest. It's a fairly large building. It's small compared to the Church of Lolth, and whereas the church seemed to be made from carved stone and very hard-wearing materials, the Salt Lord's Rest seems to be it's fancier in its architecture, but it definitely seems to be smaller and made of cheaper materials. You get the impression that they probably deliberately made it not quite as grand as the Church of Lolth, so as to not kind of make it draw so much attention.
Makes sense.
Do we know who were the Salt Lords, or it's just a fancy name?
Make a history check. Okay.
I will make one too.
Yeah, sure. You both recognise it to about the same amount. So you know that in the past, House Varin had been very kind of broken up into various different smaller groups for quite a while, and one of the basically the only way that that any nobles could gain control was gaining control of a specific territory and trying to hold on to that one. And you know that the territory around Yokai is very important for fishing and very important for harvesting salt. So the local lord who took over this particular area around Yokai and the bay gained the name of the Salt Lord. And that title, even though now House Varin is kind of back together again and on quote-unquote friendly terms with everyone else, the Salt Lord, the title is still kind of retained, so the person who is in charge of Yokai is the Salt Lord.
Okay. I just tell the same thing that you said, like with the Birmingham in America, like being really. Yeah, and I just don't know. You know, I also know things. No comment.
She flips her hand, and I soil him with prestidigitation.
What's that?
So she flips her hand towards you, and now your clothes look like slightly dirty and muddy.
Oops. Just to explain the spell. And I just said, like, oops, how did this happen?
I just looking at myself and just face palming like, oh, my new dress. And keep going.
Okay. You guys head up. There's a very long kind of set of stone steps which lead up to the actual entrance to the Salt Lord's Rest. The main doors are what would be on the equivalent of like the first floor of the house, so they're high above the ground level, and that is where we are going to go to our break tonight. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Stick around for part 2 of tonight's episode of Tales of Escuria, guys. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the rest of tonight's episode of Tales of Escuria. We will start up again where we left off. Elland and Eminora, you are both approaching the entrance to the Salt Lord's Rest in the Cascade District. As you're approaching, you can see that there are some trees which have been grown up around it to give kind of a more wide open space, a sense of greenery, whereas the rest of the town seems to be kind of tightly packed together. The Salt Lord's Rest has kind of a fair amount of space around it, as you would imagine is pretty normal for a Lord's Palace. You also notice that there is a pretty tall kind of wooden watchtower that is placed next to the river, just downstream from the waterfall, and you can see that there appears to be a bowman who is making the rounds around the top of this watchtower, and he pauses when he notices you approaching. He doesn't draw the bow or anything, but he's definitely watching you and making sure that you're not up to anything.
I wave, I think.
You see him.
Nora looks confused.
When you wave to him, he just kind of leans over and just like spits off the edge of the tower. He's like a few hundred feet away from you. He just kind of like spits down onto the ground, just like keeps watching you.
I think we should move on.
Yeah, you're right.
So, when you reach the door, you can see that it doesn't appear to be fully closed or locked in any way. It's open, so you can kind of just walk in, pretty much. Is that what you guys do?
I think a second.
I will follow you in this case. You're a politician.
We should knock the door. It would be rude. I don't think. Does she think that it's good manners to just walk in? Well, she is used to go to other places, like with handling other politicians. But does she think about the situation?
Make either a history or an insight check. You know that with certain places, they tend to have an area which is just open for the public, so that people can bring the issues before their lord if they need to, and that you would need permission to enter if you're entering into the private portion. But from what you can tell, this appears to be a public portion where people can come in if they need to contact the lord.
Do I also know how to get the permission? Like, do I have a basic behavior that I put on, then I just do that. I do my basic. I'm visiting another politician and want something from him. Okay.
So you know what the process is to do, which is that when you get like the audience with the lord, when you come to them as if you were a commoner posing a question, you make it clear that you are in fact a noble and that you need to talk to them in private, and that can be arranged. When you walk in, once you pass over the threshold of the door, there's a sudden large amount of sound of people talking. It sounds like people arguing. You get the impression that there is some kind of enchantment on this door to make it so that people outside can't hear what's happening inside. But once you step inside, it seems that there is almost like a town meeting happening. You can see large amounts of people of all the various races, and they seem to be in the middle of very lively debate. Some of them debating with their fists, it seems like. And when you walk in, it's basically a scene of a small amount of chaos. You can see almost like a gallery, like a small throne room, where there's a lowered portion where these people seem to be in the middle of arguing, and there's a long blue carpet which leads down the steps into this little kind of this little well where the people are currently arguing, and then at the far end of the room, opposite the door, back up a series of long steps, and up to a throne which appears to be made of some kind of white marble. And sitting on this throne, you can see presumably the Salt Lord. Either side of him, you can see a pair of bodyguards who appear to be wearing fairly well polished and well kept, but not particularly fancy in any other way armor. They both appear to be holding spears, and they also seem to be armed with small light crossbows. And on the throne itself, you can see the Salt Lord. He appears to be a 13-year-old boy. He looks to be just getting the beginnings of a kind of rough beard through. He seems to be looking around this room with just complete panic in his eyes, like he's unsure of what to do. He's kind of gripping the side of his throne, just kind of looking around desperately.
Does she know that it's normal that such a young person could sit on the throne?
It's something that does happen from time to time. You know that this particular seat, this particular position of power is hereditary. So if he is the eldest heir when his presumably father or possibly mother passed away, then it would just come to him automatically, even if he wasn't necessarily ready.
Does she think that this way to argue is particularly normal in this area?
You wouldn't imagine so. You get the sense from reading the room. Make an insight check. Oh yeah, you picked this up immediately. You're used to dealing with very seasoned politicians and statesmen, people who are in high positions of power, and you have seen people who are new to their positions of power, and you're looking at this kid and thinking, oh, you're like maybe a month into your position of power here, and you have no idea what to do.
I shoot a fireball to the room and shout at them to be quiet. Sit down and shut up.
Good approach.
So make an intimidation check. Okay. This works pretty well on most of the rabble who are in the middle of fighting. Like, there's someone who's, like, holding someone at arm's length about to go for a punch and just kind of, like, looks up and sees you and just kind of, like, drops the guy on the floor and it's just like... and people seem to kind of part ways either side of you. Both of the bodyguards immediately, like, hunker down. They both have their spears out and kind of like are pointing them forward, like ready to defend their lord. And two come in from behind you on either side of the door and kind of cross the spears in front of you, like barring your path.
Mm-hmm. Did they shut up?
Yes, they did shut up.
Is that a way to respect your lord? And I look at the Salt Lord and I bow, like normal behavior.
Exactly copy what she's doing.
Dog is barking. And I go, I'm not here to harm anyone, but I think this folk doesn't know how to respect their lord. I can't see something like this. Not in my presence.
At this point, they are the spears are still crossed in front of you, and the guards are still kind of in their attack stance, waiting. You see a very pale elven man who appears to be wearing very kind of plain grey robes. He has a hood which is on his head, but kind of away from his face, just kind of resting around about the top. And his pointed ears are kind of poking out from under them. You see him step forward very gracefully and lean down and whisper into the ear of the Salt Lord. You see they have a very quick kind of back and forth whispered conversation. The Elven man seems to have a very kind of calm demeanor and very kind of, and the Salt Lord just seems to be like, yeah, well, sure, whatever, yeah. Until eventually the Elven man stands back up to kind of full height and just says, "His Lordship Friedrich Saito III wishes you to approach."
I will do that.
Yeah. The Salt Lord kind of like raises his hand and kind of just like clenches his fist, and the two guards kind of like go back into their like normal stance, and the ones who are barring your entrance lift the spears out of the way for you to approach. At this point, like the whole of the kind of lower well of people, they're still kind of murmuring, but they're basically trying to get as far away from you as possible, just kind of like
That's not how politics should work. I approached the Salt Lord with Elend, I guess.
Yeah.
Standing next to me.
I just copy all of your gestures. I'm just copying that.
Okay.
So I look at the Salt Lord and I'm like, I'm really happy that you give us the opportunity to talk to you. And we're here with a request.
The Salt Lord looks kind of like confused. You see his eyes like flit up to the Elven man who's standing beside him. The Elven man kind of looks at him and gives him a nod, and the Salt Lord kind of seats himself in a kind of like awkward way, tries to get himself kind of comfortable on this very uncomfortable, clearly throne, and just says, "What is your request?"
We heard you have quite a big library, and we're looking for information about a creature that could harm your city.
There's kind of murmuring from various people around, kind of like, creature? What creature? Who are these people? Like, all of this kind of stuff going on.
She turns around and has a really, really mean look. Did anyone allow you to speak?
Immediately, everyone's just silent again. The Salt Lord kind of clears his throat, like, "Tell me more of the creature."
I think we should discuss this in private without the barbarian people in this room.
He looks a bit confused for a second. You can see him like he's desperately trying not to look up at the Elven man and be like, "What do I do?" But there's like a few seconds and he's just like, "Yes, that seems like a sensible course of action. Town meeting adjourned." And he kind of like reaches down, and there's like a staff that's been leaning against this the throne this entire time. It looks like a fancier version of one of the sun staffs that you've seen being used on the crops. And he just bangs it 3 times on the ground, and you see people start to kind of move away and head towards the exit. You hear a few people grumbling, but not much more than that. And he looks towards the two of you and says, "Please, tell me who you are."
Of course. My name is Emanora Adelman. I'm a diplomat. Is that a word?
Yes.
I'm a diplomat from the Rainbow Union, and this is my friend. I don't know where he left his manners, and I make the hand movement that I did earlier to soil his clothes and clean them with the same prestidigitation cantrip.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and
No.
The
What?
She's cleaned your clothes for you. The Salt Lord doesn't seem to be particularly he doesn't seem to be paying any attention to you, Ellen. He's just looking at you, Eminora. He kind of like glances over and back. Eminora, you do notice the elven man seems to just arch a single eyebrow when you do the prestidigitation, just like a
We can't see you, Column.
Can't see me.
I can see you.
I can't.
Maybe it's our.
Yeah, if I just. Yeah.
Go
No, it's okay. But I might break the stream if I go out and go in again.
Yeah, I'm not sure. At the moment, it's fine for the stream.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah. So.
Yeah, I will try to introduce myself, although nobody really cares.
Oh, if you introduce yourself, like he will listen, but like he hasn't been paying attention to you so far.
Well, when Manora cleans my clothes, I just look at her like really polite. Thank you. I'm really nice to meet you, my lord. My name is Kelsier. We really appreciate that you could give us some of your time to receive us. I will see you now, Cal.
I'm very sorry for him. Just ignore it. We don't have a lot of time, to be honest.
Yes, this sounds like an urgent matter. Please, if you would like to
Yes.
follow me. He gestures with the staff towards one of the side doors that seems to lead further up into the Salt Lord's Rest. And he walks off, and as you guys follow him, the pale elven man waits until the two of you have started walking, and then walks at the back of you, keeping an eye on Ellen specifically, just like making sure he's not going anywhere.
That's probably a good idea.
And as you guys head off upstairs to discuss with the Salt Lord, we head back to the Sultan Sake. Back in the bar, you can see it's getting towards kind of late afternoon into evening at this point. And you can see pretty much the same people who were there when you first arrived in town and came here. This the same, what you assume are regulars of the Sultan Sake. Although this time, instead of giving you the cold and frosty reception that they gave you previously, they give you kind of a pleasant wave, and then go back to their drinks. And it seems like a couple of them are having a bit of a livelier conversation this time. They seem to be talking about some kind of local sporting event, but it's very difficult to tell exactly what sport it is they're talking about. They keep saying something about chasing a goose, but you're not sure if that's a metaphor or literal.
Okay.
But anyway, you guys make your way into the bar, and are able to get a pretty decent seat off in one of the corners.
Okay, what should we do? If I have to reach to try to talk to my ancestors, I'm not sure if this is a place.
Well, I figured this would be the best place, considering you sort of did this last night and your ancestors had a great time.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be a shock to anybody if you did it here.
Okay. Yeah, if you think so. What should I
Nothing
do?
would shock them anymore in that bar.
I think if we get a table big enough, like how many of your ancestors are there?
There's around about. It differs from time to time. They basically they kind of expand to fill the space. At most, there've been about 20, but if it's a particularly tight place, there's as few as 5.
We'll get a small table.
Okay, so then I reach,
Okay.
like, with my hands.
Okay. As you start doing that, the barman like looks over at you, and you can see him just kind of like holding his head, just like, and you see him like just like walk over towards like the exit of the bar and just walk outside for a minute.
Ah, good man.
It's like I'm doing it, but I'm doing it quietly, like not in a huge, yeah. Regular way.
Yeah. So yeah, after a few seconds, the familiar sight of your ancestors kind of rising up from beneath the floor, they arrive and proceed to match your movements. One of them appears to be playing a small drum. Another one seems to have a small flute. And whenever you stop dancing, they also stop dancing, and seem to look around a bit confused as to why they're here.
Yeah. Can I just talk to them?
Question: have you ever tried before?
I don't think so.
Okay. Make a Arcana check with advantage.
Okay.
Oh no.
13.
That's not so bad.
Not so bad.
Okay, what do you say?
Okay, let me think. Dear familiars of mine, I I think that you might be able to help us. You hear me?
You see a couple of them start to talk back and forth in a language that you don't quite understand. They seem to be to be discussing back and forth before one of them steps forward. You can see that this one appears to have a face paint which appears to be kind of fashioned into 3 claw markings across his face, like diagonally. And he appears to have a series of large eagle feathers that have been kind of braided into like a small sash that he's wearing across his body.
Okay.
He steps forward and he says, "You have summoned us with no one to fight. We are confused."
We are looking for a spirit, and we might have to fight it. So we are searching for knowledge. You, my dear ancestors, I honor you.
The Goliath man seems to be pleased with what you have said, and he relays this information in this other language. You pick up now like small occasional words. It seems to be some form of giant, but it seems to almost be kind of like a tribal form of giant, something that some words are the same and some words you just don't understand.
Okay.
But after a while, he relays this information to the others. They seem to be mostly on board with this. One of them, the one who's holding the war drum, seems to look a little bit disappointed, just like, oh. And then like puts it on a little kind of loop on their belt. And they take quote unquote, they take a seat at the table. Although what that really means is they kind of hover slightly above the chairs. And the leader of the group says, "What knowledge do you require?"
We are looking for. I don't remember the name.
Will o' the Wisp.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Will o' the Wisp.
Blitherwisp. We are looking for a Blitherwisp who's apparently attacked a girl. We are not sure how to fight it or how to be able to help it.
Wisps are tricky things. Personally, I have never encountered one, though. A moment, and you see he begins to chant slightly under his breath. He starts to make some slight hand movements in the air before plucking one of the feathers out of his sash and kind of throwing it into the air. And when he does so, the feather transforms into a small bird. The bird flies over to one of the other empty chairs, and upon landing, transforms into what looks like a fairly elderly female Goliath. There's a certain amount of family resemblance between you and this Goliath, whereas with the rest of them, it's like, yeah, we're the same race, but this one you're like, okay, I could see that you might be like my great grandma or something, maybe.
Aww. So cute.
And this
I get a little emotional, like with my eyes like shining a little bit.
This one says, so this is the war dancer I have heard so much about.
Sorry, can you repeat?
This is the war dancer I have heard so much about. You are hunting a wisp, correct?
Yes.
These creatures are a form of undead. Not quite the same as the normal ones that you would find. Zombies, wights, mummies, other kinds of undead that are physical. These are partly of this world and partly not. This makes it difficult to damage them, but they are fragile. They are barely holding on to this point in this world. They are not able to become a full ghost. So while it may be difficult to damage them directly, if you are able to damage a wisp, it is almost certain to go away pretty much immediately.
Okay. And is there are they still here in some way? So is there any way we can help the spirit or something like that?
There are some ancient tales of rituals to banish these spirits in such a way that the soul can pass on safely without being destroyed.
Okay. How can we get more knowledge about this?
You would need to find someone with a more specific kind of magical ability. This is to do with the veil of life and death. You would need someone who has sway over life and death. Okay. Certain clerics may be able to, certain shamans and certain witches. But your best bet, I reckon, would be to find a druid.
Okay. And in any case, if we don't find a druid or we are not able to help it, would you recommend us the best way to fight it?
And you can see this Goliath looks a little sad at this point and just says, I am a wise woman. This was my role within our society. But that is not the reason that I was summoned specifically to give you this information. I am here to give you this information because I fought a wisp. And I died.
Oh.
This is how I know them.
Thank you very much for your advice.
Of course.
Thank you. I honor you. I know what I was to say in like this. Thank you very much.
Of course. If you require any further advice, you need only call. And she reaches up to her sash and takes out one of the kind of spectral feathers, and then hands it over to you.
I can take it.
When it touches your hand, it turns into a real feather.
Wow, that's cool. Thank you.
Attach it to your crown.
So yeah, I'll just put it on my phone, like my headpiece.
You see them nod, and they just say, "Yes, that is fitting of a war dancer."
Thank you.
I'm so in love right now.
That's so cute.
And with that, the spirits begin to play the war dance again, but it's kind of faint and echoing, almost like it's coming from the other end of a large empty room, and then they kind of dissipate. But the feather remains.
Oh, thank you. My touch is like...
Alessia, that was amazing.
That was so cute.
I take it I could understand the whole conversation.
Do you speak giant?
No.
Then no, you have no idea what they were saying.
So I had no idea what happened. Okay. Alessia, what happened?
Okay, I explained her everything my ancestors told me. I'm not going to repeat everything, so yeah, that's basically it. One of the closest moments I had to family, because I've been seeing them for a long time, but I never was able to speak to them.
Did you ever try?
Actually, not. I didn't know I was able to.
Maybe you should do it more often.
Yes, of course, I will.
Well, I kind of think that was a bit helpful. I mean, there may be, it may be better to find another method. So she thought that we should
Look for a druid.
or there was something else she mentioned.
She said that certain clerics. If you can make a religion check for me.
Me or
Vixen?
Vixen.
Religion. Okay, so you remember back in your training under the Silk Mother that when you become a cleric, different people take to different aspects of being a cleric. Whereas you found your aptitude in going to the Spider Queen for her knowledge. Others have found other ways of understanding their relationship with the Spider Queen. And specifically, there are clerics who specialize in the gap between life and death, and those are death domain clerics.
There's 8 there's 8 clerics in the church, right?
There are 8 followers of followers of Glauric. It's not clear to you if they're all clerics or if they are merely just people who follow him.
Do you think, Vixen, do you think if we ask in charge, they will welcome us?
I'm not worried about that. I'm not sure. I'll go into the church and see what I can find out. Do you want to wait here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put my mask on and my hood up, and I'm going to head towards the church.
Because
Okay.
I don't want to scare anybody.
Okay.
I don't think you'd scare them.
As you as you leave the bar to head off towards the church, you can see Koshka standing outside. He's in the middle of smoking something from a very long pipe. And as you step outside, he just looks and he's just like, "Is it done yet? Can I go back inside?"
I pat him on the back and I say, "Yeah, mate, it's fine now."
You're very loud, people. I like it, but very loud.
We work hard, we play hard.
Cheers to that. And then he walks back inside. We will cut back to the Salt Lord's Rest. You find yourself in a much cozier room than you were in before. You are led up a series of stairs into what you're assuming is the top of the Salt Lord's Rest. You can see from the inside here that the top kind of roof of it appears to be made of kind of a wooden frame with like paper, kind of like a Japanese style window. And that covers the entire ceiling of this room, and a large amount of light appears to be filtering in, both from some lanterns which have been placed around the room, kind of hanging, and also it appears that there might be some sun staffs which are placed around the perimeter of this of the outside to shine light down through these windows. This top floor also seems to be almost like a very precise Oriental Japanese garden. You can see there's small streams which have been put into it, very precisely placed plants, a series of bonsai trees, very well kept greenery, and in the middle of this room you can see a recessed pit, a fire pit, and above it a pot, a teapot which is hanging above the fire. And the Salt Lord takes a seat on a cushion, and gestures for two servants to come forward, and they proceed to pour cups of tea for the three of you, and also there is a spare cup that is filled up with tea. The Salt Lord gestures for you to take seats on similar cushions opposite.
I will take action, I guess.
Yeah.
I look at the Salt Lord and I look at the elf as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably next to him, I guess. Where is he?
The elf is currently standing. Nearby there is a cherry blossom tree, and he is standing just underneath the shade of that. He's still very much within earshot, and you can see him very clearly, but he's watching from a distance.
Okay, so I try to speak a little bit louder, so it's also easy for him to understand, because I get the impression that he might be more helpful, actually, in this case, than the Salt Lord himself, but not to insult him. I still talk to the Salt Lord. Dear Salt Lord, we came across a situation this morning. A girl aged very fast overnight, and also her parents, and they saw light, and I'm really sure that it's a will-o-wisp, and these creatures are quite complicated as far as my knowledge goes, and it could concern your whole city, and I think we should take action to solve this problem.
Okay. The Salt Lord sits there kind of calmly taking in the information. He sips from his cup as you speak. And then when you are finished speaking, he places it gently upon the ground. And he says, "How did you come across this information?"
which information in particular?
You speak with a lot of certainty. You say that there is a creature of some kind. How are you so sure?
I can explain this. I saw a woman. She looked 60 years old where I was walking through the city. But her brain, her mind, was a child's. So I'm really sure that I studied long enough to know how this type of magic, or whatever you want to call it, appears in this world, and something is wrong here. I felt this when I entered the city. I'm not here to cause trouble, I'm here to help, since I feel like that's my job as a diplomat of the Rainbow Union. I know our connections are maybe not, our relationship is may not the best, but I don't want anyone to suffer. And I talked to that girl and she told me she saw lights and something bad happened. And with all that, I am really sure that that's the case, that I just catered you. If you decide not to take action or not to trust me, that's up to you.
I have not decided anything either way yet. You say that you are of the Vaneborn Union.
I do. I won't hide my home.
How do I know that this is not of your doing? Some kind of trick, some kind of weapon to use against us?
Why would I tell you about it that early?
You see him
It
consider.
would be easy. Yeah, it would be easier for me to just leave it here, destroy your whole city, not saying anything, waiting for you to figure it out.
Very well. So, you come to us with this information for what? What do you seek to gain from this information? What do you want from me?
Peace.
Make a persuasion check.
I don't know.
You see him. He takes a long sip and finishes his cup and places it back down on the ground. A servant comes to refill it almost immediately before stepping back away, and he says, "Then I hate to disappoint you. You come seeking a gift that I cannot give."
Can I step in?
Sure.
Okay. I just like look at Emanora and I say she's already like no god. No. It's like, my lord, you seem like a really wise man, and I've read somewhere that to receive something really big you have to be really big, and I mean, we are diplomats. We are not silly people, and we can tell that you are fairly new to your position. So, we can help you with this. And what can be better for a new noble than being a man for the people?
Okay. Elland, what is your spell save DC?
Spell save 13.
13, okay. Okay. Make your persuasion check with advantage. And Emanora, make an insight check for me, please.
Horrible.
Okay. You notice. Well, first of all, you notice immediately that Elland is trying to cast this spell.
Can I react to that
You don't have time to
before
react
he
to
does
it.
it?
You don't have time to react to
Okay.
it because what you notice immediately after is the elf who is under the tree seems to be moving his hands and muttering his own spell at the same time.
Mhm.
Can I give him a look and just gesture this?
Sure. He makes eye contact with you as he's doing it, and there's this brief moment when like you see like the stony like face that he's had this entire time. He just kind of like smirks a little bit, just kind of like a
We just feel each other.
yeah. So, Elland, after you say this, the Salt Lord, he seems to nod. He says, "It is true I could do with something to solidify my position, something to convince these barbarians, I believe you called them earlier, something to convince them that I'm actually someone to be respected. Perhaps." And for the first time, you see him look like directly and intently at you, Elland. And he leans in a bit closer. And he says, "Tell me who you really are." Give me a second.
I want snaps Elland. Smacks Elland. Please.
Okay, 14. You feel as though you were just obligated to tell him.
Okay. I cannot do anything I cannot do anything to lie, right?
You're not able to lie now.
Okay. Yes. My name is Ellen Maribo from obviously the house with the same name.
So, this is an interesting position I find myself in.
Can I step in? Can I
Yeah, sure.
push away? My dear Lord, I'm not here. I sincerely apologize for him. He comes out of a good house, but his manners are definitely not there. He has to learn a lot. I'm not here to convince you to do anything you don't want to do or it's not in your power.
While you are
I
mid-sentence,
came here with this.
he raises his hand and is just like, "The actual
immediately
nobles are
shut
talking,
up.
please."
I take it.
I just look at her and like
He says, "You have come before me, given a false name, lied your way into my private rooms, and you come with a companion who claims to be a diplomat of the Vaneborn Union, a sworn enemy of our country. And you come telling me that there is some vague imagined threat somewhere in this town that you must take care of, and you want a favour from me in return, no doubt. What? I grow tired of this. Give me a reason why I should not just have you executed now and get it done over with."
well, how young is he?
Like 13.
Please let her do it.
In comparison to my age?
You would be the equivalent of like early 20s for a drow.
Okay. A reason. Yeah, I know that there's not many reasons for being allies with Bainborough Union, but they are useful people, and we can actually learn a lot from them. And we was we all just want to, I mean, help people. It's not that. I know that for a draw is not the most appealing reason, but in the end, what do we need in this dark world? Maybe we just need to, you know, find some kind of beauty.
I'm crying. She's
So-
crying. She's literally crying.
Okay, so make a persuasion check. Normally you'd be at advantage because you cast friends, but I'm putting you at disadvantage because that was a terrible speech. It was
Yeah, I know.
just
I
terrible.
know that nothing about it.
16.
We love you.
Okay. He listens to you kind of like go kind of like on this weird rambling speech, and he just seems confused by what you said. To the point where he's just like, I don't know what to think right now. He looks over at his advisor, and he just says, "Caster, what do you think?" And the elven man walks over, very kind of like slowly, and he looks at the two of you, and he says, "There's a simpler way to end this."
Kill them.
And he casts Zone of Truth. So both of you make a Wisdom saving throw of a DC of 14. Okay. Sorry. Emanora, you are able to lie still, but you can choose to tell the truth anyway, and he won't be able to tell the difference. Elland, you can't lie for the next minute. He just says, "This threat that you told us of, is
Does
it real?"
she think? I have a question. Does she think that if she puts Ellen to sleep magically, will he be mad?
Me?
He cannot be put to sleep magically. He's a drow.
Ah, terrible. All right, then he stays awake.
We're a fucking team, man. I'm very happy.
Terrible. Ellen, could you please trust me and let me do this, please?
I
Uh,
don't know. I kind of want to, but you obviously underlook at me. And I don't think that this is a place to argue about this.
Okay. So I look at the Lord, and I'm just like, dear Lord, I would not lie about a threat like this. I'm deeply concerned about the people in this town. I don't think they are bad people, and I'm also sure you are a good person.
The Salt Lord looks up to the elven man. The elven man regards you coldly for a second, but then turns down to look at him and says, "I believe they are telling the truth."
Also, Sword Lord, why should I may ask for something in return, but I told you all this information without asking for anything. You could have just turned it down, and I knew this. I wanted you to freely choose to give me your what do you call, like, is your support in my matter.
Make a persuasion check with advantage. Okay. He seems like he's listening to you again now. Now that he's been reassured that you are telling the truth, he listens to what you say, and he says, "Well, your noble companion here may be somewhat of an idiot, but there is something true to what he had to say earlier. If you can deal with this problem and, of course, give me credit for putting you on the right track, I believe that I may be able to help you. What is it that you want?"
Just your support. If there are questions about attacking the Raven Union, or if we try to find a way to discuss things with the Raven, maybe just if they ask you, you could just say, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea." Just a support. I don't want you to do anything that could harm you or bring you danger. It's just your natural, true-hearted support.
That's even more horrible than what I say.
You ask of me a very difficult thing.
Well, we're only looking for information. This is quite a big place. Maybe you have some books or people with some insight about these creatures.
Yeah, that's another thing to help you. We need some information, but I guess.
I believe I have someone you may be able to talk to. You said these were will-o'-the-wisps?
I'm fairly sure, yes.
Interesting. He looks up at the elven man and just kind of says, "Go and find Hagen. I'm sure he will be of some assistance. In the meantime, feel free to look up at any of the various scrolls that I have collected, though I doubt there will be much in pertaining to these specific creatures."
Could you do me a favor and send someone to look for my friends? They could help us. They were also searching information.
I am already doing you several favors. Go find your own.
It is. All right. Thank you, my lord.
As to your other request, if you can rid us of this danger, and do so in such a way that makes it clear that it was my fair hand that led you to do this act, I will consider it.
Great. Then I will go and do my best.
Very well. He finishes his cup of tea, places it back down on the ground. He reaches for the spare cup of tea that's been sat there the entire time, and he very ceremonially, staying in a kneeled position, whispers a couple words over it and then pours it out on the ground, and then places it back down next to the teapot. And he says, "Here in House Varin we honour our dead. If you can rid us of this undead problem, perhaps there's more in common between our two people than I imagined afford."
Okay.
He then just silently stands up and walks away. The elven man walks over to the two of you and says, "If you would like to follow me, I will lead you to go and meet with Hagen. He should help you with finding the information you are looking for."
I would love to do that, and thank you for your help. I'm really grateful.
Yes. Well, He may be young in years, but he is as bold and as temperamental as his father was. Sometimes he needs a little bit of guidance. So
He
don't
should
tell
be
him I
that
ever say
bold.
that.
He should be that bold when the people in the towns in the hall are a little bit going crazy.
I believe
But
you
he
are
will
correct.
get there. He will get there. I'm sure.
In
It's
time.
hard to be a politician if you didn't choose to be one, and you're born to be one.
Of course. Anyway, and he kind of gestures for you to follow him out through another set of doors.
Moving.
Meanwhile, we cut over to Vixen, masked in your full regalia, approaching the doors of this of the Church of Lolth. You walk up and push the doors open. We hear the swelling of choir music. You hear the sound of a congregation of faithful people singing a traditional hymn of Lolth. As with all the traditional hymns of Lolth, it contains a hell of a lot of murder. But as the last strains of this of this familiar hymn come to an end, the people begin to take a seat. There's a fairly simple wooden bench. There's a series of them to be kind of the pews for people to sit in, and there's one fairly near the back that's completely unoccupied. And at this moment, you spot standing at the far end of the church, bathed in red light through this stained glass window. You see a man who appears to be possibly half orcish, completely bald, wearing a set of completely black robes. He has a fairly ornate spider necklace on, not quite as fancy as yours, but getting there. And he stands up from what looks like almost a throne behind this stone altar. And as he does, you see he is flanked on either side by 4 other people wearing similar black robes, but each of them have a different coloured sash across them. And as he stands up and walks towards the front, he takes his position in front of a small pedestal with what you assume is the Book of Lolth on it. He opens it to a pre-marked page, and he begins to speak. And that's where we're going to leave tonight's episode.
Ah, damn it!
It was really cool.
Okay,
It was
so
really cool.
thank you very much, guys, for coming along and watching, and thank you guys for playing. That was a really fun session. So just to finish everything off, as always, we are presented by Horsham Gamers. We are a local group to the Horsham and West Sussex area. We cover all kinds of gaming, through from tabletop and roleplay stuff like this, through to board games, esports, wargaming, anything that you can think of. If it's involved in gaming or geek culture, we're interested in it too. If you would like to come meet some of us in person, play some board games together, we have an event coming up this coming Tuesday. That's Tuesday the 7th at Broadbridge Heath. It's in St John's Hall. So if you'd like to come along, play some board games, have some free tea and coffee, and just have a chat, we'd love to meet you. But in the meantime, if you'd like to come and meet some of us, please head on over to our Facebook group at Horsham Gamers, or our Discord server, also at Horsham Gamers, and we'd love to meet you. So thank you very much, guys. We hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time for more Tales of Escuria. Bye, guys.
Bye.